On this episode, Bill and I celebrate a milestone here at Hole in the Wall. It is our 100th episode of the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. We are so excited to celebrate with you. Check it out today. We just talk about how the podcast has benefited us over the years and all the entrepreneurs that we have worked with. We cannot wait to do 100 more. Please like and subscribe. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. I'm James Groves, and along with my business partner, Bill Dement, we want to share our journey as small business owners with you. As owners of Hole in the Wall Drywall Repair, we will attempt to peel back the curtain of owning a small business in the trade service industry and talk about the many adventures of owning a small business. Hey, Bill.
James, what a momentous podcast we have for us today.
This is indeed a momentous podcast.
It's our centennial podcast.
100 episodes.
Never in my wildest dreams did I think we would reach 100.
When we started this, it was one of those, hey, it'd be kind of nice if we did one of these things. And then here we are, we're almost 2 years in. And just passed, and then now we just actually recorded. We're recording our 100th episode now. We're already booked out for the next several weeks with amazing people. It's kind of fun because we get to kind of now. I want to do this. Could be a short podcast for all I know, but I just wanted to talk about how significant being in this podcast world, has changed. How significant is it to us in our company?
Yeah, I think it's big. Yeah. I'm constantly surprised at the caliber of people who want to come on the show, and the fact that you have a podcast and you do one weekly really gives you an authentic place when you ask somebody, would you like to be on the podcast? They're like, you guys have a podcast?
Yeah.
We do it every week. How many have you done? Well, we're pretty close to 100.
Yeah.
And it just gives you an authority, a standing with people, And I've been, a couple of things that really stand out are the caliber of people we've been able to have and the degree to which people will allow you to sort of pry into their business and sometimes even in their personal life.
Right.
And their willingness to share their hopes and dreams, their thoughts, their insights, their inspirations with you. And it's almost as though, because it is a podcast and it is a conversation, but it's a bit more than that. Something in that context really lets people loosen up a little bit and share with you. And I value that.
Yeah. Well, I was pulling up some statistics, and it's fun is that I learned a new term this week.
Okay.
It's called pod fade. And basically it's a common term apparently in the podcasting world. Now, we own a podcast. We run this, but unlike a lot of other podcasts out there, we don't monetize our podcast. We don't spend a lot of money in promoting our podcast. We're not out there trying to get rich on this thing.
What do you suppose is wrong with us?
I don't know. But our intent was just to pass knowledge, right?
Yep.
And frankly, people get burned out. They can't make it. It's a lot of work to come up with fresh ideas every week. It's a lot of, when the way we do it is we actually have these almost longer form, half-hour plus podcasts. It's not easy to kind of do that. So we've done well with our workflow management, having great guests. I run all the books myself, basically. You and me find all the guests ourselves. And when we don't have a guest, we have the ability to come up with some great podcasts just on our own. But a lot of people can't do that. So this pod fade comes into play, because podcasts, a lot of them just cease to exist. And there's not a lot of goodbyes. It's just kind of like, hey, I had a few and now I don't. I don't have any podcast. And I was really kind of astonished to know that many of the podcasts experience their pod fade within the first 7 to 10 episodes. So most podcasts, they fade out before they even reach 7 to 10 episodes in there. And then the research shows that about 50% of all podcasts never do more than 14 podcasts.
Is that right?
Yeah. So the fact that we've made it, almost 2 years in this, 100, and listen, that's every week. We've missed, I think, 1 to 2 a year, and it's just vacations and stuff, a holiday podcast we missed. Right. But a lot of times we try and bank extra podcasts so we can release them without having any delays at all. So that's a consistent podcast. A lot of podcasts, they only do, a show whenever they get inspired. We follow a couple online for franchising, and they don't drop them every single week.
Yeah, they're really irregular.
It's kind of irregular. So it's been a chore, but not a hardship.
Not a hardship for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in your mind, what was the impetus for kind of getting a podcast going? There wasn't one, and then there was a desire to have one, and then there was one. So what did that process look like from your view?
It kind of started back because we were doing a lot of advertising on radio for a while, and we actually we were guests on other people's radio shows on Salem Media.
Yeah.
And when one of these Saturday shows for home services faded away, our salesperson for that radio, Bruce Cherry, he said, "Hey, do you guys want to do your own radio show? Every week, come down to the studio, record it. You can record them in advance, no big deal. And we could sell ad space on it and, whatever we want to do for it." And it was a dollar figure I just didn't want to spend. And frankly, I didn't want to drive to Altamont Springs, once a week to do it. But I loved the idea of getting our voice out there because, listen, between you and I, we've got a lot of experience in all different kinds of industries, right? So you've been in the home services industries, in the real estate industry for
40 years anyway.
Yeah. And then I've got, I'm more on the production side, in the technical side for, I retired after 25 years from the entertainment industry. And so being all of that at play, I thought we have a lot to share, but I'm not going to pay to be on radio. I just didn't want to do it. And so I actually called you. I was walking around Sam's Club one day, and I called you from Sam's and I said, "Hey, Bill, just putting food for thought out there. Here's what they offered us to do. I think we could produce our own podcast for far cheaper and really have our own platform and just make it whatever we want to make it." And you're like, "I'm not sure I kind of dig that, but we'll think about it."
Well, I do remember asking early on, what are we going to talk about? Because you're only going to get 15 minutes out talking about drywall.
Yeah, right. So I somehow the whole idea of this business podcast kind of played out. And we did it because we were starting a franchise, and we had all this data, this knowledge, all these things we wanted to talk about. And sometimes it's easier to pre-record it. So then if one of my franchise people says, "Hey, I'm curious about, X number of marketing, blah, blah, blah," we'll go listen to Trish Murphy on episode 35 or whatever it is, right? Yeah. And then a place to kind of build credibility in the industry and in business. But then we had to figure out kind of how to do it. Unbeknownst to you, I was already in the background just kind of researching what would it cost to buy the equipment, to set up a little podcast studio. And so I had a little budget kind of going. So when we decided to do it, I could just kind of pull the trigger and make it happen. And then I was on vacation, and you had Chris Connor from FMS show up.
Yep.
Well, I wasn't here. And then you guys had a conversation about that, right?
We actually spent a day together, and part of that conversation was he was really encouraging us to do blog posts and podcast. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, because I think that was about the third time I'd heard podcast, and not the term, but I mean, just like you guys need a podcast, sort of that thought in previous couple of months.
Yeah.
And I'm going, okay, let me have a conversation with James and really let's either figure out how to do this or put it to bed.
Put it to bed, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because we would have, in our office, just you and I have desks in this tiny little office, the two of us, and we would invite Trish, our marketing person. She'd come over, and we would just sit there in the afternoons and just kind of belly laugh at each other and share stories and stuff. And she's like, "You guys should record this. This is great." And you're like, "Oh, I actually bought a microphone to plug into the USB and just maybe we can record some of this stuff." And, kind of you went through this whole pay dirt campaign where you were trying to figure out how we can mine some good topics for blog posts out of it. And it just kind of started with that idea. I'm like, well, we probably could do a podcast. So it didn't cost very much money. Of course, I tend to go probably a little more on the technical side than the average person, because you can start a good podcast for just a couple $100,
Yeah.
And so we bought good equipment.
And we had an office, we had space that we could do it.
Yeah, I had a space for it. We could set up some good mood lighting in it so it's not so bright. Turn the fluorescent lights off. Put up some sound deadening panels on the wall. And just
how many of the podcasts do you suppose we did in that first studio?
I think we did probably about 25.
Okay.
I could probably go back.
So we've done the majority of them here in what we call Studio 58, right?
Yeah, maybe 30. But we done more here than we did when we were over there.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked out fine. It's just basically the same setup, just a bigger room.
It was a
more
little
comfortable.
tight in there sometimes. If you had 2, 3, 4 people,
Oh yeah,
it could get a little tight.
yeah. But and so then what are we going to discuss? How well, we don't want to talk about drywall. That'd be kind of silly.
Oh, well, I don't. If it comes up, I'll talk about drywall.
Absolutely. And we want to talk about franchising. We want to make sure we can still kind of get that out there because frankly, that's, our business. We want to sell franchises.
Yes.
And then we met some cool people, being able to, like our very first, we actually recorded 6 podcasts before I launched them. Right?
Yeah, I
So
remember that. It was a good plan.
I wanted to bank some. Our very first interview was with Tim Connor, although he wasn't until episode 3 or 4. But he was our first in-office, in-studio interview. He's going to come back on again soon. I just talked to him the other day.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, he's going to come into town. We're going to have him on the podcast again. And Chris Connor was with the ops guy for FMS, the franchise company that helped us franchise. Great podcast. We ended up, if you ever are curious how Bill and I even met, you can go back and listen to podcast 1 because that was just the introduction.
Yeah, the whole story's right there.
Of Hole in the Wall and how Bill and I met. And then we started getting into our franchise journey. And then we did one podcast with the two of us just on franchising. And then we had Chris Connor come in, Tim's brother, who was the owner of FMS, and did it. We had Alan George come on. And then we just started talking about it. And then we started sprinkling in like our friends, people who are in our orbit, basically, our attorneys and our IT people and close friends. And it just kind of turned into now we have people are approaching us on a weekly basis. Hey, do you mind if I got something to talk about? Hey, can you have us on the podcast? And frankly, it's been fabulous.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the other piece of that is because you establish yourself as a podcaster, you get invited on other podcasts too.
Absolutely.
Now you start to hit the circuit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been on several podcasts. People are asking us to come on their show, and we've done podcast swaps. Or we've been on. We were here with Deborah Mitchell. We're going to be on her podcast soon, and she was on our podcast.
Nice.
With several opportunities that pull out there. And one of we talked about this before, but what we didn't realize is that our employees were starting to listen to our podcasts, and so
that was an unintended happy coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah, and then they're on job site, people's homes, and they're listening to podcasts, and then the homeowner's like, "Well, what are you listening to?" So, "Oh, that's my bosses. They get a podcast," and they get to listen to a little bit more about what goes on behind the scenes. Because frankly, I don't see every one of our employees every day, and so they get a chance to kind of hear from us weekly if they so choose to listen to us.
Yep.
So that was kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. It's been good. Going forward, what do you think? Where's the podcast going after the first 100?
Well, the idea is I bought the cameras. So I do have 4 cameras that we're looking to figure out the best camera angles and how to run them. So we'll be hopefully launching. I know we already have a YouTube channel, which launched at episode 36. But we want to really put video to all the podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I think people like watching the YouTube channels if it's a full video of us doing it.
Yeah.
You and I have a face for radio, so it's difficult. Some of the guests, we have to prep them a little bit differently.
Yes.
You got to make sure the lighting's just right. You got to make sure the camera angles are just right.
To a certain degree, it's going to be sort of starting over again, isn't it?
It is, and the workflow. I mean, I can literally take our podcast, the audio form, I can then drop it to the hard drive. I can edit it with any final tweaks I need to do, and have it ready for launching within an hour. Right?
Yeah.
This would change
And
that.
you're doing all that yourself.
I do all myself, and that would just drastically change it. Now for YouTube, once I have my final Spotify mix done with the commercial inserted and all that stuff, I send it to our video guy, Tyler Speck, and then he does the thumbnails and adds the video intro that I do for the YouTube channel and builds the short for us. I was doing that too, but he's like, well, I'm going to be doing your short. Let me just go ahead and do this too.
Yeah, nice.
And so he does those for us, doesn't charge a whole lot of money, but he does a great job at it. But with video, the job flow becomes a little bit more cumbersome because I either have to edit the cameras while we're recording, or I have to record all 4 cameras separately and then splice them together.
Yeah, it's a bit more work, isn't it?
Working on it. We're working. This is probably the next evolution of it. I think that's probably where our next big push will be. I think we'll get a much more higher subscribe rate. But once that happens, but frankly, I just want to keep pumping out great content with some quality people. We just recorded just the past couple of weeks. We recorded our 500th Google review episode with Zane.
That was such a good episode.
Such a great episode. We just recorded one with Tony and Braden from Level Up that just dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great episode. I was listening to that premiere today. I was like, holy moly, that's really a good show.
Looking forward to hearing that one.
Yeah.
We've got Michael Haynes coming up from AC Direct.
Mm-hmm.
Really smart guy. Love hanging out with him.
I mean, listen, now you're talking with someone who's an entrepreneur who this guy started working and doing internet sales before Amazon was.
Well, certainly at the same time, Amazon was launching.
Amazon was just a bookstore when he started launching.
That's right.
He did his first sales on eBay, back before. Well, what is eBay? It was just like really amazing to hear his story. So I can't wait for that to be launched as well. And frankly, we're booked out multiple weeks with guests. On top of the fact that you and I have so much more content that when we don't have a guest, we will share more insights, tips, and tricks that we learn ourselves.
Yeah.
So how about you? What was your thought when we started this whole podcast thing?
I was hopefully optimistic. Didn't know exactly what to expect. My initial reaction was, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because I was aware it could be grind.
Mm-hmm.
Grind being the operative phrase here. But it really didn't turn into that. I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't any good at it. I'm not really good at it now, but I'm better than I was 100 episodes ago. I can tell you that. Didn't know what to expect, but I was pleasantly surprised that I kind of like doing it. And as I got into it at a specific point, I thought, well, if we're going to keep doing this, I probably should get a little better, because essentially when you're doing a podcast, you're interviewing people. And our goal always is when somebody comes on the podcast to make them the star, to shine the spotlight on them, to ask them questions where they can really shine. And I have embraced the effort, trying to make a little effort to do that better, to do it well, speak with people. The nerves that I had in the early podcast, they just don't exist anymore.
Right.
And frequently when we're prepping somebody, particularly if they haven't really done a podcast before, I try to tell them it's a conversation. But don't think of it as a conversation, because sometimes we're making notes or we're not looking at you. We're doing other things while we're having this conversation. Think of it as more talking to somebody on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So the conversation rolls whether I'm looking at you or not. And the things that we have learned from the guests we had on here, the doors that the podcast has opened for us it's been amazing, frankly.
And we've been able to highlight some small business owners and help them produce and promote their business as well. So our goal, like you said, is we want to make them the star. We want to give our listener, who is the small business owner, the young entrepreneur, maybe someone who hasn't started a business yet but wants to know what it's like, some insight. So when you talk to somebody and they say, well, yeah, I bought a franchise and it helped me do because of these things, or I started by myself. I mean, I think about the landscape guy who was in here who talked about his troubled youth and how he ended up starting his own landscape business. And now 10 years later, TNT Landscaping is thriving.
He is killing it.
What a great story to talk to. And then that's inspiring to some of these other younger entrepreneurs that you can do this. You don't have to. When you have Trisha Haig, who came on the podcast a couple times with Charlie's Bakery and Creamery, she doesn't even have a high school diploma. And she has been able then to launch multiple successful business with her and her husband. Mm-hmm. It's inspiring to young women or to young adults who just want to fire the boss, who they want to do work, but not just for a W-2. They want to do work for a company that they're putting their blood, sweat, and tears into. But with the knowledge of it's going to take some work, and that's where we give them the insight.
Yeah.
Don't do this alone. Don't try and do it in a vacuum. Don't try and own every aspect of your business. You can't do your own marketing. You can't do your own lawyering. You can't make sure you have a trademark. Make sure you got a good domain name. Make sure. So all these things that we talked about over the years, it's easy. It's easier if you just have us in your ear once a week to kind of talk through these things. Did you know that there are over 140 million homes in the U.S.? 97% of them have walls and ceilings that are built using drywall. The drywall repair industry is simply enormous, valued at over $13 billion a year. We're hole-in-the-wall drywall repair. And for years, we have been perfecting the art of repairing drywall, developing and refining our systems, and strengthening our brand. Our business model is simple, scalable, and easy to learn. We believe it's a real game changer. We are successful drywall repair pros who decided to take our repair business to a higher level growing both our franchise training and support to industry-leading standards. You'll benefit from our vast experience helping your franchise hit the ground running and achieve success quickly. We'll give you access to our marketing team that has created strategic programs designed to get your phone ringing and booking new business fast. Join a fast-growing leader in an exciting dynamic segment of the home service industry by franchising with Hole in the Wall Drywall Repair. Start building your own business and securing your own financial future today.
Yeah, we may not always be on the same topic or the same page with you where you are in your business, but I think we're usually interesting.
Yeah. I think we're pretty. We're funny.
I will tell you one odd phenomena I have noticed over time: producing and performing the podcast is one thing, but to listen to it later, I almost always take it differently. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not working, I'm not thinking, what is the topic line? What is the next subject?
Right.
I'm just listening to the conversation going on. And I pick up things that I might have missed during the live podcasting. Mm-hmm. I've always found that amazing. It's just performing is different than sitting back and listening to it.
Yeah, I used to take notes while the person was here. Like we had, on episode 61, we had Tim Anderson in. I've listened to that podcast 3 times. He talks about my health. He owns My Health Matrix. He's he does holistic style. He's working with me and my wife and trying to help us with hormones and testosterone and just kind of make us feel better. But he dropped so much knowledge in that one podcast that I could not remember what he said, and I couldn't even take notes. I had to stop it, rewind it, listen again. Okay, DHEA. Let me research what that is. To research what those are. Going back and listening to Gerard Grant talk about succession planning and making sure you got key man policies, make sure you have it set up so if something happened to you, your wife could either run the business or sell the business at a profit. Make sure you got partnership agreements. A lot of people don't have partners, but we do. So we had to have Gerard develop partnership agreements. So when something happens to one of us, there's no questions. It's all there. There's no litigation. But we always say it's better to have an understanding now than a misunderstanding later. Yeah. That's what that contract's for. Yeah. So listening to those types of, Gerard charges hundreds of dollars an hour.
No, he's not inexpensive.
And he comes and drops free knowledge on our lap, just in these podcasts. So.
David from Colonial Florist, what's his last name?
Edmondson.
He was fun because we talked about owning a family business with siblings. Yeah. And something about succession planning. His uncle and dad, I believe it was, started the florist right after World War II. And then that's the only job he's ever had.
Yeah, he got his job at 16 and left that company since.
So that was interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty fun.
Sanjay, always fun.
Love Sanjay.
That buttery accent. And you talk about somebody that is just dropping knowledge, not shallow.
Mm-hmm. And Sanjay's one of the people that we have on, he's got nothing to sell. He's not really trying to sell his consulting company because he's working for Trident.
Yes.
He just wanted to come and talk.
Yeah.
And
he wants to keep coming back.
Yeah. I just talked to him yesterday. Just wants to come and kind of drop more knowledge because he loves helping entrepreneurs.
Well, and he likes business and he likes talking business, and that's fun.
Yeah.
I like talking business too.
It's kind of all we do.
Well, we actually did another podcast this morning, but in between and before, we talked business and business and business and business all day today.
Yeah.
Even at lunch, we went to lunch. We were talking business.
Yeah, but we're gonna have them on the podcast too, by the way.
Oh,
yeah, Eric and Your Pie Pizza.
Your Pie Pizza.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is some good pizza.
They're both military. They bought a franchise. It's a very amazing restaurant. I can't wait to hear their story. Yeah. So,
well, let's get them scheduled.
Yeah, very good. I'd say one of the other cool things is we just started this, but having a technician on. Now, we've had Mike Elliott come on. The podcast. He's our general manager for the Orlando Drywall
he's been
location.
on a couple of times now.
He's been on 2 or 3 times now. And that's great. But we've never had a field technician on. And it was so great timing when we got our 500th review. Happened to be Zane, your eldest.
And what a review it was.
Crazy good review. And to be able to celebrate that with him on the show, to highlight. Yeah. And really, since I've known him since the beginning, to see his level of execution just increase and get so much better over time and see him grow as a person and character. It was nice to be able to celebrate that with him live.
Yep. Yeah. So what do you see coming up in the next 100? Do you see any pod fade? in your
No.
future?
I don't think so. I think that we probably will start shifting and talk a little bit more about some of the franchise stuff as we get more franchisees under our belt. And we want to make sure we're highlighting some of those wins for us as a company. I did a video at the Orlando franchise show a few weeks ago that I'm still working on now. It's going to take me a little bit. But just even why you'd want to buy, why not? We actually had a guy show up at the Houston show with us and said, well, why would I want to buy a franchise? Well, I can just go and just start this business myself. It's like, it was a great question. It's like, well, why would I want to? And one of the things that you've said, because I'm not a sports guy, you are, but you're like, listen, we start you on second base and we're your third base coach helping you run home.
Yeah.
And to think about how when Andrew Miller, our very first franchisee for Polk County, was in training and he's basically tapping on our gigantic manual, which is one of 5 elements in training. And he's just laughing. And he's, what are you laughing at? I'm ripping you off. There's no way I could have started a business for the franchise fee and have a quality brand trademarked with all of the marketing experience you guys have had for the past 10 years, a training facility that's ongoing with an ongoing training portal that I can have videos and stuff uploaded on a weekly basis, which we do, and to have the ability to have my technicians right along with your technicians to get firsthand knowledge in the field with them, as well as you guys coming to my location for a week.
Yeah.
There's no way.
And tons of advice, a phone call away.
Phone call away.
How many times did he call you? He had a presentation in Polk County.
Yeah.
And he says, James, can you put together a thing for me?
Yeah.
And you did. And he really wowed that company with that.
And so you could do this from scratch. Listen, you can start your own business from scratch. But I'm not sure I'll ever do that again, Bill. I mean, why would I want to start from scratch when I could launch into an already proven successful brand like Hole in the Wall and just start with the ground running? I mean, our crews have been out there for 3-4 months and they're out there making money every day now. And they've just started their business. To tell me a business that within 3 months is already making money, it doesn't happen. It happens 2 or 3 years. You know, you buy a restaurant, you sink $300,000 into a storefront. You're not making that money back for a couple of years.
It's going to be a while.
So that's kind of what I want to talk about a little bit. I think, as part of our element of moving forward, I think there's a lot of other great stories out there. The more people we have on our show, the word has been spread to their friends and people in their networks that are even outside of my existing network.
Well, you just hit it too and kind of skipped by it, but I love it. There are a lot of other great stories out there. And they come coupled to nice people. Smart people. And we've been talking about that a lot lately. We just love hanging out with smart people.
Yeah.
Because we always learn something and we wind up better.
Yeah.
After that conversation because we know something more. And frequently we've made a new friend.
Absolutely. And then you run into these people, at your networking events and it's family. They're now part of the Hole in the Wall family.
Yep.
And they're out there, listen, selfishly, they're out there, as additional salespeople. They're out there people who, if someone has a drywall need, they don't ever call anybody else. I actually find it funny because Level Up Automation, who just dropped actually today we're recording this, the 25th, they were on the podcast. Braden, one of their development people, were here and he said, we don't do a whole lot of drywall damage. And so, and literally just 2 days later, Scott, one of the owners, calls me up and says, James, one of my technicians had an accident. They fell through the ceiling of someone's house. Can you come rescue us? And it's like, absolutely, because we were going to be that rescue for them in their time of need. And they had the ability to then say, listen, Hole in the Wall drywall repairs coming out there. They'll get you taken care of. Sorry for the mistake. And then the homeowner can say, well, who's Hole in the Wall? They go Google us. Well, they got, as of today, 508 5-star reviews. And we're a trusted referral partner to those people. Yep. And so just kind of spreading that word out there, I don't know, gives me some good hope.
Hey, it's what we're in business for, right?
Yeah.
It's all part and parcel.
Yeah. I think some of the cool things we're going to talk about is just kind of some more business development. What are some of the challenges that we're facing in our business and how are we overcoming some of those challenges every day? The economy is
it's starting
different.
To slow a little bit, isn't it?
It's slowing a little bit. There's an election. We got a couple wars going on out there. So how do you navigate those more difficult times? And so I want to talk about that. I want to get that information out there to people. And frankly, if someone's listening to this, if they made it in the 30 minutes into this podcast, go to our Facebook group. And if you have something that you want us to talk about, you have someone you want us to interview, drop us a comment or you can text us. You can email me at podcast@holeinthewall.com. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to kind of get some ideas on ways that we can benefit you and your business and your growth, and just kind of talk through those things. So, we're not just out here talking for no reason. We want to help people.
And other podcasters, if they would like to talk to us about being on the podcast or being on their podcast, we'd love to talk about that.
Absolutely. We love that. So, well, cool. Anything else?
That's 100.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for enduring us for 100 episodes. Here's another 100 more to go, and I can't wait to keep celebrating business with everybody. And
hey, give us a cheer. Cheer us out of here.
Oh, wrong one. We did it. 100. All right, Bill. Thanks for this. Thanks for being my great partner.
I'll see you on 101.
See you on 101. We'd like to thank you for listening to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. We'd love for you to join our Facebook group and keep the conversation going. If you'd like to learn more about us and our business, check us out at holeinthewall.com. If you'd like to learn more about how to start a Hole in the Wall franchise, go to holeinthewallfranchising.com.